Daddy said Sunday night.
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Natchez Parish School Board Committee meeting. It's November the 2nd, 2021. Silence all of your phones. Also, if you are going to speak to an agenda item, that is a form in the back. If you would fill it out and send it to the front. Ms. Kanika, if you would, roll call.
Mr. Daisy.
Here.
Mr. McGuire.
Here.
Mr. Benefield.
Here.
Mr. Garner.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Present.
Mrs. Guidroz.
Here.
Mrs. Broadband.
Here.
Mrs. McGaskey. Here. Ms. Palmer.
Here.
Ms. Phelps.
Here.
And Mrs. Bell.
Here.
Right, our superintendent, first of all, let me just congratulate our board member, Mr. Benefield, for his new endeavor. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And we're all going there with me.
Yeah.
I can promise you we can solve a lot of world's problems.
I believe it. Yes, sir.
Okay, so a few things I want to share with y'all. First off, I'm happy to report to the board members who were pushing for this, and I apologize also that it took time. But the MLK Head Start Center has been mowed and cleaned up. I believe they were still working on it as of about an hour and a half ago, but I've received some pictures and it looks much better.
Awesome.
Yes, ma'am. And so Ms. McGaskey, she's been cracking that whip on me. So the second thing is board members, in December, we had talked to Dr. Pope, and Ms. McGaskey's kind of been leading the charge on a budget workshop. We were talking about doing 3 or 4 of these throughout the year to get you more involved in the budget process for the next fiscal year. And that would be, we kind of thought the first meeting would be kind of a budget 101 with Mr. Wasson, but then also what are all of our kind of, what do we want to emphasize in the budget, what do we want to see in the budget, and things of that nature. And the 2 dates, we were looking at doing a workshop on a Friday afternoon, similar to what we did previously. The 2 dates that Ms. McGaskey and myself worked out that would look best when you consider the Christmas festival and Thanksgiving and all that stuff, to get this in before the first of the year would be December 10th or December 17th. If y'all want to, I can shoot an email sometime this week, or we can come back Thursday and kind of
December
10th or 17th. Those, I think, are the 2 that, when we looked at the calendar for the remainder of the year, work best.
Would it be possible to get a Zoom for that? Or?
Yeah, I definitely think it would be possible. So, I mean, that would probably give people even more flexibility, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
because our meetings are the 14th and 16th, or there.
Indeed, they are.
Yeah.
So December 10th probably is the most viable, I would think.
Otherwise, we're here 14th, 16th, 17th. Of course, that might be the best way.
Yeah, we definitely will have.
Yeah, I was thinking, so if y'all can come Thursday,
have to come down.
let's put December 10th as our, if we can put that as priority 1, so we're not here all week, the second week, and we can prepare, for that. But if you can come Thursday with your availability for the 10th, and then if we need to, we can move to the 17th. It would be, I think, around 12 to 3, 12 to 4, depending on.
Well, that's gonna be bad for me, because Fridays is my busiest day at my job. That's the last time I took off on a Friday, but it's very hectic on Fridays.
Is there another day that would be better for everyone? If we go Thursday, we'd have to go, because those 2 weeks are the 2 weeks that are best in terms of scheduling, but I've forgotten about our move of the board meeting. So really, does December 9th work better, that Thursday?
That'd be fine with me, because,
So I'll send out a link, but if you can just keep those dates in mind, that would be great. Okay, so moving on. COVID, as everyone knows, since our last board meeting, we did decide to follow the governor's him not renewing the mask mandate. And there's been a little bit of confusion with a few different folks. I've seen it online. I've even been asked. You have 2 things working right now. You have Dr. Brumley's alternative quarantine plan that came out, I believe, about a month ago, 3 weeks ago. And then you have the governor's plan, which he did not renew the mask mandate, but for schools, he said, if you want to follow that guidance, you can, but you have to follow CDC quarantine guidelines, which means that you cannot have both of those things. You have to either choose to go with Dr. Brumley's plan or choose to go with the governor's plan. And so we chose, and I think overwhelmingly it makes a lot more sense, because when you talk about parent choice, I think we're finally at a point with masking, there is some choice, and I always use myself as an example. I've had COVID, I've been given the shot, I've been given the booster, and I get tested on a weekly basis. I feel as though I am keeping others safe while still not wearing the mask at all times. In some cases, I still do wear it. With quarantine, if you put parent choice in that, yes, the parent would have a choice to not send their child if they're exposed, but the other parents who have children in that class don't have a choice that their child would potentially be exposed to a child who was exposed, if that makes sense. So also I will tell you that the governor, whether politically you agree with him or not, has been very consistent in his messaging throughout the pandemic. He has followed the science, and so we feel good following that. I will tell everyone that we have had 9 weeks at or below 1% positivity district-wide, and we've had 5 weeks at or below 1% quarantining district-wide. We will continue to monitor this data, and if we see a massive change in either direction, then we reserve the right as the district to make a change in that policy. But as of right now, I'm in communication with Ms. Grubenberg, our COVID nurse, and we are not seeing any sort of change based on not masking. But again, that's something we want to continually follow. That being said, there are some changes to quarantine that are important for people to realize. Because if you are fully masked, if both people who are the exposed and the exposer, as it were, are both fully masked, then it only means 3 feet for quarantining radius. If the person who is exposed is not wearing a mask, then it goes up, the person who is the positive is not wearing a mask, then it goes up to 6 foot radius. So that could potentially mean more quarantines. Again, we're not seeing that yet. The other 2 things I talked to Dr. Martha White, she's our LDH representative, and she's told us, you are going with the governor's plan, you're not masking, or it's parental choice in masking, but that means you have to follow the quarantine policy. It is important to note that the CDC quarantine policy that we must adhere to if we are not masking means in 2 areas, there's 2 groups that still have to mask. Masking is still required for those who are exposed to a positive, even if they're vaccinated, for 14 days after exposure, no matter their vaccination status. So if I get exposed to a known positive, and I'm vaccinated, so I'm not quarantined, I still need to mask as a precautionary measure. The second part of that is individuals who decide to shorten their quarantine by testing out, so they test out on that 8th day, they, for the remainder of that 14 days, so the remaining 6 days of that 14, they would have to mask during that time as well. But for the majority of people, those are the only 2 caveats of the quarantine policy.
All of that.
So what was
Correct.
was it 5 days and you could test out at first?
So what it is, let me remember, because it.
Yeah, I think it was 5 days.
So on the 5th day, you can test. If you get the negative test, then you can come back on the 8th day. Yeah, and I think many of you probably had personal experience, unfortunately, with that. So that's where we're at with COVID, and I can definitely backtrack if we get through this and y'all want to come back to that. I had some questions also this week from some board members about disciplinary actions, expulsion, suspension. So I wanted to kind of update everyone on some of that. Currently what we have, if you recall, we have given an option of virtual expulsion, but that is not the only option out there. When a student is recommended for expulsion, Miss Anita Dubois, Child Welfare and Attendance, she has the option to work with parents based on 3 criteria on will a student go virtual or will they go face-to-face at NPTCC. Those 3 criteria include the seriousness of the offense, the parental preference, and the student's access to viable internet. Currently, we have 20 expelled students in the district. 15 of those, because of those criteria, went virtual. 5 of them are face-to-face, and that was all in interaction with parents. I do want to share some more information that I think is really good about discipline in general, because many of our schools have had disciplinary issues in the past. We have numerous schools that are qualified as UIRD, which means they have too high of discipline records. If you're over 20% of your student population is being suspended or expelled, the state flags you, and you get a label of that. And if you don't rectify it, they can come in and impose some things there. We have given every school in the district a goal of 12%. So that's a solid 8% below that number, and then it's mandatory that they are below 20%. I can report to you that all schools are currently under that 20%, and 99% of them are below that 12%. I can also tell you that currently parish-wide, we only have a 4.17% out-of-school suspension and expulsion rate combined. And if you look at this same time in years past, that is from our peak, a 50% reduction in suspensions and expulsions. And we're not doing this where we're just keeping the kids. What we're seeing is schools are being creative with what they're doing, whether it be the BBLC, the Behavior-Based Learning Center, or in-school suspension, or in some cases, and many of you may have heard of this, Saturday school. The Saturday school, if I was in school, I'd much rather have been suspended than go to Saturday school. And that's all a means to keep kids in school and not kick them out. And also, when we are expelling students, we're trying to keep those expulsions, unless they're of a very serious nature, to below 9 weeks, so kids don't get totally thrown off track of their progress. And so we're really excited about that. It's making a lot of headway. Our principals they've worked tirelessly, and I probably caused them a lot of headaches in that regard. But bottom line is, we're not going to have any UIRD schools within the next 2 years, because you have to have multiple years of not having that status to remove the status. So that's a big deal. Another thing I need to report to y'all is ACT scores came out for the previous year. Statewide, they saw a drop of 0.3 of a point. Unfortunately, I'd like to report to you that we did see a 0.4 of a point drop from a 17.3 to a 16.9. We did have a larger number of zeros, meaning students did not test, and we attribute that obviously to the pandemic, but I will be very honest with you and say that the 0.4 of a point cannot be only attributed to COVID. And so what are we looking at doing? We're taking a three-pronged approach. Number one, we know that statistically students who test more score higher. 57% of students who test a second time will improve their score. So we are starting to track all student scores, and we will be testing all 8th graders, all 9th graders, all 10th graders, 11th graders already. They have to test as part of the state accountability, and we will be retesting our 12th graders. So that way, and so we'll have that 8th grade data, and we'll be able to track it, put them in cohorts, and really track where our students are going. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, we will be implementing at our high schools some sort of ACT preparatory class, whether that be an official class or a class that's put in during the WIN period. And so all students will be exposed to that. And then finally, the third part that anyone will tell you will improve ACT scores is a more rigorous curriculum in the 9th through 12 coursework. And what we view in that is two areas. Dual enrollment, we're not focusing as much on that because we have done a lot there. But dual enrollment, you have to have a certain ACT to get into that class. But what we're also focusing on, and Ms. Pinckney's leading the way, is the expansion of AP classes. AP has a philosophy that all students, no matter their ability, no matter their test scores, can get into AP, so it exposes them to a more rigorous curriculum, and in so doing, prepares them for the ACT test. And students who are in AP, no matter how they're doing in AP, overall see better scores on the ACT exam than their cohorts who are not in AP classes. So it's kind of a three-pronged approach. Again, that's testing more and tracking, ACT preparatory classes, and also a more rigorous curriculum. Finally, the last thing I have to share with y'all before open up for questions is broadband. We wanted to give you a brief update. We had a meeting with Mr. Beneath, and I can't remember his last name, but Beneath is over the State Broadband Commission for the state. He came to Natchitoches early last week. We met with him, and Mr. Wascom is our parish digital navigator. That's his official title. It really is. And we had really good conversations with him. It looks like Natchitoches is actually a little bit ahead of the game. We will be hearing from 2 grants that we've applied for by 1st of December. One is the NTIA grant worth around $8 million, and the other one is an ECF grant application, which is around 4.7. Those two together get us close to 13 million. If those two come in, which we feel very optimistic about them, those two come in, that would cover the 95% we had discussed previously. So some good news coming there. Hopefully we can give you some concrete news in that regard by December 1. Maybe even sooner, but definitely by December 1. And that is my superintendent's report, and I'm assuming I may have some questions on all that.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
The first one has to do with, can we possibly get the information on expulsions and suspensions, because we get questioned. And I would love to have that specific information.
You want like a one-pager on kind of what I went through there? Or do you?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I can do it.
Yes. And the other one has to do with the quarantine, so we have clarification on that.
Yes, ma'am.
And third question had to do with the,
Wait, I'm sorry, on the quarantine, you,
that
like,
information
yes, ma'am.
clarification.
I can do that.
On the behavior-based learning center, is that to do with the Saturday expulsions, or is that a separate program?
No, ma'am. Behavior-based learning center is what we call it's a tier 3 intervention. So tier 1 intervention might be, hey, you call parents, things like that. What we don't want to do is we don't want to put kids out of school as much as humanly possible. So if we have a student who's persistently having some behaviors that are problematic or disruptive or whatever, the idea is to put them in BBLC. They continue in a regular education class. They're getting all their education, but there's 2 teachers in there. It's a small grouping to where they can really address both their education. They're not going to miss a beat there, while also doing some, I guess the best way to put it is some therapeutic things to address the behavior. And this is best done when it's accompanied by a PBIS plan, because the idea is, with positive behavior enforcement, is a student has to work through the process. There's very few things that should happen where they just automatically get expelled. Now, you have a fight, you bring a weapon to school, those are things that we obviously have to address. But if it's, a lot of times you'll see consistent disregard for authority or willful disobedience. Well, those things usually are a buildup of multiple things. And so instead of just saying, oh, you did this 4 times, instead we want to be proactive and address that. And so this is a means to put a kid in, keep them in school and not in school suspension. In school suspension is more of a kind of even below that. It's a response to that immediate event. Hey, you did something that we're not going to suspend you over, but it's kind of in between.
Okay.
BBLC is more of a consistent infraction of the rules, but we don't think it's something major. It's something we can remediate.
That's the one that was initiated at
Weaver.
I was in a meeting with you,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Williams. Has that been putting all the other schools out the parish?
It's in all the
In progress.
it's in all the city schools. Miss Ingram's here, and we've actually had a lot of discussions about that. We need to refine it a little bit more. It really, like I said, it works best in schools with the best PBIS plan. When schools have a weaker PBIS structure, it's not as strong, and that's something we're continually trying to improve. But they have access to it. It's just I would say it's very much a work in progress, but it's something we're committed to.
Okay.
I have a question. What is it called, the
BBLC, Behavior-Based Learning Center.
BBLC, do you have any strategic plan for the teacher of those programs?
Yes, ma'am. The whole program, this actually was created by Ms. Tony Bennett originally, our former director of the desk department. And she has an entire binder that is really how this has to run and what you do when this happens and why does a student come into this. And so one of the struggles we've had actually is trying to help our administrators understand that this is not something you throw a kid in because they misbehaved. It's really something that you've gone through that tier 1, tier 2. It's now time that this is going to be something they're going to go into. Once they're in there, we've specifically selected teachers, usually based on, some of it's just based on personality, because some teachers are better suited for dealing with those students who are more, more of a struggle to deal with. They're going to test you a little bit. And so I think the place that's worked best overall was Weaver, where it was initiated, and I think they really had a strong structure. And we're trying to replicate that, and so we try to kind of pick those teachers that are similar to that, and we give them that binder, and we give them professional development. But like I said, it's an ongoing process, and the struggle is finding both that strong academic teacher and that strong behavioral teacher who can kind of do both of those things. But there is a large binder and professional development that goes along with it.
Okay, I'm asking the question because I am one of those teachers that put in the academic and the behavioral part in it. What I'm not hearing from you is, are there any social emotional learning consultants that are coming in to teach the teachers on how to deal with those students that we identify as struggling students?
So we are bringing in social workers, actually.
So we're in the process of bringing social workers that are not academic based?
To the program or in general?
In general?
In general.
Okay.
Is that it?
Okay, that answered my question. I don't think that, who's testing who's doing the follow-up and going to do the efficacy of your BBLC program?
In terms of efficacy,
Of the success of the program, how is it, it's only at Weaver and we're trying to get it district-wide. How do we?
no, it's not. It is district-wide. It's at.
She just asked you.
I said it was LP, Weaver, Easton, and
He
JH.
said what did he say? Work in progress? So where's the program at?
LP Vaughn, Weaver, East, and then JH.
That's it.
Right, any other questions, comments?
Okay, and I'm done, so we can move on. She asked the question about the teachers being prepared, taught to deal with children that have the academic, emotional issues that will be placed to work in this,
BBLC.
yes, in there. So they're trained specifically.
Yes, ma'am. There's
to
a
work with
summer.
those troubled kids.
Yes, ma'am. There's a summer professional development. And I think they also, the BBLC works with a lot with the desk department and their pupil appraisal. They also work with Miss Ingram, and they also work with Miss DuBois.
Thank you.
And when you mentioned binder, is the binder a curriculum? If it is a curriculum, I'd like to know the name of the curriculum.
No, it's not. The curriculum is the normal curriculum. This is a program.
Do you know the name of the program?
Behavior-based learning center. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
I do have a comment to make. We had that incident here recently about the threat to the schools and all, and we appreciate what was done by the city and all the different agencies that participated. And we are gonna treat that a little differently, I hope.
So we have contacted the sheriff's department, and January 3rd and 4th, those are the 2 PD days that we're coming back to school after the Christmas holidays, and one of those days will be about a crisis. It'll be both the development of crisis plans or remediation of our crisis plans, and then also a crisis training in terms of active shooter drills and things of that nature with all staff.
Right, so you're gonna do an update on our annual stuff.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good deal, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, we all have looked over the consent agenda. All right.
Is that the first one, sales tax, right?
Yes.
Okay, good news to report on sales tax. It is up 21% in the amount that was collected, and is up 19.35%. If you open up this report about a third of the way down, you see, always look at the reports about what was distributions. Once again, as I say each time, it's distributions to the school board. Collections differ because if they have to do refunds and stuff to taxpayers, That's some of the difference in these numbers. What is fascinating is automobile sales tax collections is up 32%. Sales tax, a lot of people buying automobiles out there. We were 32.4% in automobile collections. So that is good. Actually, if you look at September, the past several years, September is often a down month. It actually was up, and was happy to see that. Also, when you're doing 20%, and last year you beat it by 20%, each year it gets progressively harder to beat the previous year because the number is growing by 20% each year, and we're still at 20% growth. So I'm happy to see that. So that's a good report on that one.
Personnel?
Hello. We've been busy doing our regular things, but we've also gotten our little ad together. We're going to do a little editing, and we'll be able to share that with you hopefully very soon. We're also getting ready to start the first recruiting that we've done in a minute. I'm going to Louisiana College tomorrow, and we're just doing what we're doing. That's really all I want to share. I want to remind you of our event next Wednesday, November 9th. I think you will get invitations here. We were a little late getting them out for various reasons. Oh my God, everything is hard now, you know that. But we expect to see you there. We will be celebrating. We will be celebrating. Finally, we will be celebrating. Do you have any questions?
Okay, I've got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
4C through G, that's good news.
Yes, ma'am. The 5 people, I know what you're talking about though. Yes, ma'am. We have people who've now moved to a different level. They're not certified, but they're en route. They're in a program. They're almost there. They are working on something. The status has changed. They are no longer people in the classroom. They are people who are in a classroom being paid and working as teachers. Yes, ma'am.
So we've got an increase in the number of teachers that are non-certified, that have been certified, a small increase, or, like
Yes, ma'am.
kind of percentage?
Yes, ma'am. The level has changed. They're still not certified, but they're getting closer to being certified. They have the minimal requirements, temporary authority to teach, or they're on a practitioner's license. So they're not quite there, but they're not, I don't want to say just people off the street, but they've elevated themselves. They've distinguished themselves from people who just step into a classroom as a sub.
You know, about how many we have in the program right now?
It changes. I want to say about 15.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to say that 1A super teacher.
What?
I said, I want to say 1A is a super teacher.
Retired.
That's retired.
Yeah.
I was absolutely just
Pretty sad.
Former teacher
very
of the year.
sad.
Former
Very
teacher of the
sad.
year, teacher of the year for the state.
If you went to her classroom,
I enjoyed going.
yeah,
I did.
you become
Yeah.
she was something.
Who is it?
Miss
Sorry,
Pierce.
we don't know out here. Who are you talking about?
Crystal Pierce. I mean,
Crystal
I
Pierce.
didn't,
She
I didn't mean to go there, but since you brought it up, you're the president. She's represented us well in other countries.
It's amazing.
Well,
Other countries, you're right.
other countries. Yes.
China,
China.
to be exact.
Yes.
And China has some of the best teachers. Matter of fact, She was given an opportunity to come and stay in China and refused to do it. Came home.
The Fairview.
Yes. Amazing. Man.
On the report that we get about new teachers transfers and retirees and whatever, I know we're online now and everything, but it's good to have something in black and white. Yes,
I
I'm
like
a
the
little old
top.
YouTube, that's why I do this. Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
Is that for the rest of you too, or
Yeah, I think that, I'm not, I would like to talk.
you want this?
Right.
Okay, I'll just make a few copies for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Lloyd, only thing
Yes, sir.
for next Wednesday, I know they'll change some of the rules or whatever, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be more than 6 board members that do we have to.
So,
I know they had changed something, but with celebrations
Yeah,
and parties or
what Bob
whatever.
said is anything that's a non-voting, and actually we have our lawyer here today, and he can probably vouch for this on open meeting rule.
Right.
Because there's an article in the Advocate right now about Dr. Cito Narcisse in Baton Rouge going to Miami with 6 board members. And so they obviously have a quorum on the airplane, in the hotel, etc. But it is a non-voting, non-working meeting, and it's somewhat happenstance, I guess.
So I know it used to be anytime if it was more than quorum, you had to do stuff, but I know they had changed it with a few years ago, but I wasn't really sure with that, because I didn't wanna. But I'm pretty sure more than 6 of them gonna show up.
Are we good on what I just mentioned in terms
As
of?
long as you do not discuss the business of the board, you can have gatherings. But if those gatherings end up resulting in a discussion of board business, that would have to be stopped and resumed during an active meeting.
Yes, sir.
I have a question before you begin, Mr. Wascom. Ms. Page was up here and there was something that I made the attempt at putting it on the agenda 3 meetings back, and that question did not appear on the agenda. So in the process of ironing the kinks and outs of how we do things here, I'd like to know, what is the procedure? Who do I report to in order to get something on the agenda?
Me, first of all.
Okay, so it was reported to you, and the question that was asked
Okay, what
is,
was that?
the question that was asked, which was typed, emailed to you, the president, the superintendent, and the secretary, was what efforts are being done to diversify our teaching workforce? That was the question, and how can we get it on the agenda?
Did it come to me on the time that's set?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Well, it just didn't get on here, so.
So I'd like for it to be on the agenda. However, she addressed 1 or 2 efforts that were being made, and I just want to express to my constituents that there are efforts being made in the district. However, the item was not put on the agenda, so I'd like for the item to be put on the agenda so that we could address all of the efforts that are being made to diversify our teaching workforce.
And so, let me say this as well. I hadn't heard no more from you about that. And as I tell all the board members, some of the things that we discuss, we might need to go and see the superintendent and talk to him so we can get an understanding of what is going on.
It was addressed, but again, my question is, how do we get the item so that the constituents are aware of the efforts, the strong efforts that are being made by Ms. Linda Page and other staff members on recruiting a diversified teaching workforce?
Okay.
Okay. If y'all have pulled up your budget, remember column 1 is a budget that was adopted. Column 2 is last year at the same point in time. Column 3 is where we're at now. All looking good. You will see the expenses will be slightly higher. All the ESSER money is now starting to be spent. ESSER II and ESSER III money. In a few months, I think 2 months from now, we will be reporting with accounts receivables incorporated into this budget, which will make this budget a lot more accurate, which is, y'all might remember my frustrations eternally with this. But overall, all looking good there.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
which, Esther II, Esther I was the money supposed to come out for the teachers that were working at the failing schools?
Oh, that's Esther III.
That's Esther III. Esther
So-
2 and 3, when you hop between the two, they have different rules.
So have we gotten Esther III monies?
We have actually gotten all of our budget requests approved. That happened, I think, last week. All of our Esther 2 is for a total package of around $34 million.
So when will the teachers receive that money?
Now, there's different aspects.
CIR.
The CIR, that will be in June 15th. There will be a separate check mailed to them.
I thought they were gonna start I thought it was gonna start in August. Or they had to start working in August to get the money for the year.
We adopted,
The way we adopted it, there's two different things we're talking about. There's the one for,
The $6,000, $7,000, and $8,000.
5, 6, 7.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. So what we looked at, we talked to the payroll staff and Mr. Wascom, and in terms of the logistics of if people come and go throughout the year, it was determined and it was sent out to staff that would go out in one lump sum. When we discussed it with y'all, we said there was a possibility pending discussion with the payroll department of it coming in one of 3 ways. That was one of those 3 ways, and then it was decided based on the logistics that it would go out that way.
So they won't get it until June?
right, they will receive that in June.
Those teachers that worked 21, 22?
Well, the ones that work from starting in August all the way till May, they will get
Okay.
that in June, yes.
In one lump sum? Or
In
is-
one lump sum, yes. It'll all be just one payment.
Alright.
Mr. Wasserman, do you have a copy of your report so that I can follow?
What now?
Do you have a copy of your budget report with you?
No, I do not. I can go get printed from one of my breaks. I can go get you a copy of it, sure.
It's
on board
Thank you.
It's on board docs,
Yeah,
so.
I have
I don't have board docs. I don't plan to use board docs. I can share with you. Thank you.
I have
So
that.
nice.
Okay.
No.
Child nutrition. I won't steal your thunder here, Shauna, but she's in the positive. You can see the collection rate as compared to last year, column 3, which is this year, versus column 2 in revenue. Substantially more people served in the collections earlier. Also, the year started earlier this year than last year. That's a part of it as well. But all is looking good there. Title I. Revenues are not at 144,000. Whatever expenses are is exactly what revenues are. It's just that we haven't been reimbursed yet. And that's why I want to get the accounts receivable side in this report for y'all, because it'll make it more accurate. Always remember when it comes to Title I that revenues and expenses will always have to equal each other. So anyhow, total expenses here are 484,000. That means revenues are actually 484,000. So that's it on the budget. Are there any other questions? Okay. Maintenance report is next. Mr. Shirley had a ball game to go to with this child. I said I would cover for him. This is some of the things that he gave as a list of central warehouse, nothing to do, nothing to report, any of these things. The MLK Center has been mowed, as y'all were just made aware of. Basically all locations where construction is still ongoing. The NACA Central, I heard the completion date for NACA Central should be around September 15th of 22. At this time, we need a roof. We can't get the metal for the roof. It is underway.
If you couldn't get the metal.
If we could get the metal, we really need the metal for the roof. Once we get that, you'll see things move along much faster. I would go to the bottom of this report.
Mr. Walson, that's the same thing with the signage too, correct?
Yes, it's the signage, it's everything. It's just they're having certain metal, glass, a few things are really in short supply. If you go to the bottom, the very last few comments is bullet points. The Fastenal meeting, y'all remember his presentation on Fastenal? His Fastenal meeting, he's going to, he said he was going to provide an update. The update is he's looking to meet, he sent them an inventory of what he wanted at each school. The inventory is in, they're coming later in a couple of weeks to give us to start installing it, or at least to verify the inventory is correct. Y'all should see the Fastenal stuff starting to go in here in the next 2 months. Order system. We are moving to a system called FMX on ordering, work order system. This will help a lot. We can actually use pieces of this for putting people online, like new employees. It can help with the process. This is a very good system. Glad we found it. The biggest thing, as I may have mentioned to y'all privately, is that it goes on the cell phone. It's very important that if you see something wrong with the building, you take a picture of it and you can upload it to the work order system on your cell phone. If you have to wait to drive back to your office, or like I do, have to wait to come back here, you just forget what was I supposed to do, and you forget about it. So this was a very important aspect, and this is allowed in this thing. It's actually half the price of the previous system as well, which is really helpful. Lawn care specs. We are opening the bid for the lawn care bids on the 18th. So we will be able to have something to report about the next board meeting. Head Start, that's what we just got through mentioning, and our outside, this is our outside contracting slowly. Okay, he wanted to mention that he is getting his crew better trained, and he is less and less outside vendors, and his crew is able to take on more responsibility. Though our bill at Stein's is going up a little bit, our bill with independent contractors has gone down significantly over the last month or so. And this is him just getting everybody trained to do plumbing and stuff on our own instead of having to outsource it all. So, because I did see the Stein bill and I was going, but then we looked at all the other bills that didn't come in, and so it's significantly cheaper. So, okay, now I would like to, sorry, were there any further questions regarding the maintenance report? Yes, ma'am.
In reference to the issues over at Parks Elementary on the Coont Street side with the tall bushes, the litter, the branches and all that, has that been addressed?
Mr. Walsh.
There are, what's that?
My office is right over there, so I can say that progress has been made. It's not complete, but a lot has been done over there.
If y'all
No,
recall,
I've got a plan.
it got stalled because of not the bees, the
Yellow
ground
jackets.
hornets or
Yellow
whatever.
jackets.
And so last I spoke to Mr. Shirley, they are bringing in heavy equipment to remove some of the larger debris. And I think that, but the larger equipment has not come in to do that yet. It's like scheduled, but hasn't happened.
That's correct. And it's also, we're looking to actually remove the jungle. There's like this whole area where actually some debris from the hurricane Laura that fell, all of that, we're looking to remove all of that. All the pine trees and everything, and maybe create some additional parking, which they desperately need at that building. Also, the bushes right beside where the buses come in, all that gets removed.
Yes.
You will see, it will be, it's scheduled, and also all the fencing is all gonna be removed. I wanna get it to in a position where it can be maintained with mowers. It's not, there's not so many trees and stuff in the way, so we will be removing that. This is a long, this got stalled. Well, I cannot guarantee on that because it has to do with infestation. My biggest thing is to wall off the fence, put in a fence so the children can't get at that area, so they will not interact with the wasp, or the yellow jackets.
Well, can't we get rid of them and?
It sounds simple.
It's been ongoing, so.
Okay, so
We need to.
well, it's ongoing because we go out there, find them, we spray them, we're told they're gone, they go out there and get stung.
Well, these are also, they're underground nests. It's not.
These
like
are yellow jackets.
Yeah,
These are not wasps, they don't hang, and they're not honeybees.
They're under the ground.
They're actually in the ground, and so you don't really know it sometimes until you step on them. And so, but we're trying to kill them off. We have made it, our effort has been stop everything, pull everybody off so we didn't have any more stung.
And if you've been stung by them, you won't get around them.
Oh, they stick on you.
When they get you, you think a baseball bat, they need to say.
If it's a paper wasp, if it's one of those paper wasps, not one, it's gonna be at least
But
5.
if them old big hornets would be in the ground like who used to be in the hayfield, when they hit you.
Ryan got stung 21 times.
Oh, yeah. You know he got stung then.
Yeah, he got stung.
Yeah, with them things.
So do we need to get some type of
We
professionals?
are on
to
it.
come
That's
in
what
and
we've
do
done.
that?
We've pulled off, trying to get some professionals. as you'll see if you drive by there, we're removing it all on the fences. We're gonna remove the fence, then the heavy equipment can come in and take out the difference. It's just a matter of, some of it's just wait till winter until they slow down, it gets cold. This cold snap will help.
So
We're hoping for a freeze, which would help as well. It's just that we've been told twice that the yellow jackets are gone, they're not. But now they seem to be gone. We still don't know yet. So we are going to get them removed.
I had a tractor that I put in the ground and didn't know the yellow jackets were there, but they taught me they were there. But that's the other thing, when we talk about heavy equipment, do we have any heavy equipment?
No, that would have to be, this is heavy equipment to take trees down.
Okay.
This is significantly heavy equipment.
Okay.
And what we're going to do is, but I'm first gonna fence off so that no children can accidentally stumble into the construction area. We're gonna fence that off and then we're gonna start removing all that. We just need to be careful so that, this is done right, and I wanna fence, so I think we're about to proceed with the fence.
And I know, Ms. McGuskey, you guys at every board meeting, probably for the past 3, and I wanna assure you, we're trying to move as fast as possible, but, when we can't even get the contractors to go out there to do some of the work because
their workers are scared to go in there.
That's kind of where we're at right now. And we told them once, hey, it's okay, you can come out, we fumigated or whatever, and they came out and then they got it again. That's been the song and dance. So I think we all would have liked to have been completed by this point, but the WASP are the exacerbating issue in the whole equation.
Okay.
We have been able to maintain the students away from that area. There's anybody listening to this report needs to understand the students have not been allowed to be around in that area. Okay, the next one, if we're done with maintenance report, the next one is E, which is report from Cimarron. I'd like to invite Joe Staney up to discuss this process as regards to Hurricane Laura claim.
Thank you, Lee. Good evening, everybody. We're still working to evaluate everything at this time. I will tell you that we've been doing some behind the scenes, if you will, research and evaluation of some of the circumstances, and we're finding, as Lee and Ed and I are working through this, the overall quarterback for the insurance company's adjusting side of this was Sedgwick. And apparently they hired a company called Ingle Martin, which does a lot of their own claims for them, subbing that out. Ingle Martin apparently turned around and hired a company called EFI Global to do some of the engineering evaluations. What's interesting about that is Sedgwick owns EFI Global. And seems to us to be somewhat of a conflict of interest for the ultimate quarterback over the whole project and evaluation to own the engineering firm that's going to tell us whether or not we're the good or not. So we're asking for an answer to that. And I think they've got a hard question to answer, and we're anxious to find out how they respond, because we feel that the overall evaluation that they conducted is so far from an accurate figure that we're going to have an interesting discussion with them down the road to find out what the final true figure is going to be. Ed and his team at Cimarron, along with Joel Moore with Champion Insurance Services, are working, and Ed can confirm this, but in essence, Ed, so I appreciate it, y'all going building the building, y'all going to inspect all the damages, you can help us identify all of the areas of damage, and among other things, be prepared, if necessary, we have to ultimately go to court to provide expert witness services to prove, both from an engineering perspective as well as an evidentiary standpoint, all the itemized damages associated with not just all the roofs, but I'll let you explain what you do once you find a roof leak.
Correct. Thank you, Joe. Hello again. So we have been evaluating the roofs. We begin up on top of the roofs at all the schools, finding where the leaks are, and then trace them down. We got our nice little gadgets that show, especially the other day when it was raining, we went out to the schools and showed Mr. Lee and them some pretty nice videos. And you know, you look at this and you try to figure out how did they do this adjusting. They had to have some total blinders on throughout the whole way. But we're still in the middle of our evaluations. We got some drawings coming. So that way, when we are done with our report, just like any other one, we are basically going to show them, here's the real report. Now let them battle against us and with their engineering team, which we know they own, so it's gonna end up having to go through a third party.
So in essence, we're gonna prepare, through their assistance, a booklet detailing all areas of damage, all items of losses, so that we can intelligently present this to the insurance company, hopefully in a manner in which they will not be able to dispute just how extensive these damages are. We cannot repair these buildings without the proper adjustment of these losses and without the proper payments being made. So that's our focus, that's our efforts, and that's where our energies are, and we hope that we'll be successful with it. Any questions? Thank you.
So, we stopped getting reports from the transportation. I know last, I didn't make the vote, but I know the committee meeting, we didn't have no reports.
I spoke to Ms. Washington.
It's not even on the agenda, you know, usually it's on the.
Yeah, I don't know.
So we need to.
That's
She was
We
given a
didn't make
report
the
last
report,
night.
brother.
She was here,
Yeah.
with the report, but we didn't get, she's here
Yeah.
today.
I apologize for
Yeah, I
that.
didn't realize.
Well, then you'll have to go up to the.
Hello, everybody. The only thing I have to report is, we're, about our recruiting process. We've been trying to recruit ever since the summer, even before the summer, bringing new people in, and I have good news. We got 5 new drivers. Well, officially, they're not official. We have 3 going Saturday for their third-party testing, to be certified as a driver, and we have 2 more to finish their training, so that should bring us, to 100%, even with a sub-driver. Hanging around, so that's good on our end, where we can make sure that all routes are covered and kids are home at a good time and everything. And we're working, like tomorrow we have a job fair at the technical college, and we're going in, they're allowing us to come in and do a table and talk to the people there, and you know, just to campaign to them, pitch our campaign to them, you know, to bring them in. So we're hoping all of that goes well, and we're meeting with Northwestern to get on their blog. They have like a bulletin board for jobs, and we're going to put it out there so if some of the students are interested while they're here in college to become a driver, because it really don't interfere with their schedule. They can work around it. So we're taking all the avenues we can to bring the people in so we can get the kids to and from school safely and at a good time.
And that's really a tribute to Ms. Washington and her staff, because there are very few parishes in the entire state right now who can say they're 100% staffed. I mean, there was an article, again, in the Advocate that mentioned another parish that is missing somewhere in the realm of 30 to 40 bus drivers. So that's huge.
We thank you guys for, you know, just being there for us and helping us out whatever we need. And if y'all know anybody that may be interested, send them our way. And if they don't have the qualifications, we will get them trained and get them out there and driving well. Any other questions?
How many kids do we have catching the bus before 6 o'clock?
Before 6 o'clock, we shouldn't have any. We had Clutcherville, we lost 2 drivers in Clutcherville, and so that put us at a kind of a struggle trying to get the kids into school at a certain time. But the parents there in Clutcherville allowed, they gave us a meeting spot, so we picked the bulk of them up in the Gorham area and at the post office. So as of right now, I'm not aware of anybody that is picked up before 6. Our buses do go out before 6 just so they can make their first stop at 6 o'clock, but they are told and are not allowed. But we do randomly check GPS on the buses to make sure that they are not picking up kids before 6 o'clock.
And you said that they're getting home at more timely
Yeah.
manner now, because it was like 6 o'clock in the evenings this summer.
We still have
Getting
one.
home, and I know that had to do with the shortage of drivers.
Yeah. We have one bus that's still out in the Marthaville area, because the parish is so large and they live almost, really, if you just take 2 steps to be in another parish, but they are zoned for Natchitoches, so we still have to take a couple of them way out there, and so that they get home, but then the driver has to come back, and so that causes him to get back on the yard later. But the latest I can say maybe is like maybe 5, 10 you know, and that is the kids that live right almost in Vernon Parish and different things like that.
Ms.
So
Washington.
it's early because I have one catch the bus at 6:10 in the morning.
Okay. Yes, we try to make sure nobody, I told the bus driver, you gotta sit at the corner until 6 o'clock, but do not pick anybody up before 6 o'clock.
First of all, I want to thank you so much for your efforts as, it's a national issue. The bus, driver shortage is a national issue. And we get these reports every day. However, I'd like to, ask you, when it comes to, PPEs, are the bus drivers responsible for their PPEs, or are you guys responsible?
Technically, the parent is supposed to be responsible for the children having their PPE because it is still a federal mandate for the buses.
Okay.
But we do supply masks for the bus.
Okay.
So the kid gets there in the morning, don't have a mask, we give it to them. So now our struggle now is because they don't have to wear it at school, when they get to the bus, they don't have a mask, so then we give it to them again. You know, so we do give it and they cannot turn a kid down because they don't have a mask. You know, that's why we make sure that we have a guy that every week put all the supplies on the bus to make sure that all kids are wearing PPE.
It was a concern that was brought to my attention. So basically, what you're saying is that the supplies are given on a weekly basis to the bus drivers?
Well, we have a guy that stocks the buses every Friday. But the drivers know, like with the masks, since they don't have to wear it in school, we are going through more masks now. So all they have to do is come by the yard and we give them as needed. You know, so they out of masks. Like today, we had about 5 drivers came in, needed masks. We just gave them masks for the little kids and bigger kids. So all they have to do, even the cleaning supplies, like to sanitize the bus, you know, all they have to do is come by the yard if they're out and just pick up some more.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Gedros?
I just want to commend you for recruiting at Northwestern. I think that's a brilliant idea.
We're trying to get every avenue, you know, whatever we can do. And a lot of students that are there need money. They're of age where they can drive. So in the morning, they have no classes. Then we need them 2 hours in the afternoon so they can kind of work around their schedule and stuff. So we're trying, you know, whatever we can do.
But that's what I'm thinking is that the future coaches that need their CDLs for driving teams around, that is a brilliant idea.
Well, thank you.
Ms.
What is the minimum age that's allowed?
As a driver is 21. Our
Okay.
insurance, you have to be 21. But we do provide training. If you have no training, you know, no knowledge of it or whatever, we bring you, have classroom. And then from classroom, we have a driver that actually teach you about the bus, just everything, driving and everything. So even before, and then after that, once we feel you're ready, you still have to go through a third-party testing, which to get certified. And so then you have to go through that and pass through the state as well.
And you have, after you go through all of that process, isn't there someone that's on the bus with the new drivers? Because I've heard that there are some situations where there was nobody, an experienced person on with new drivers, and we had a situation or two to occur. So that needs to be definitely.
Okay, I will look into it more, but the way they have it set up is we know what route you're gonna go on, what we need. So the trainer drives the route and the trainee rides with them. Then once they get more comfortable, the trainee would drive and the trainer would be there so they can learn the route. So once they finish all the training, get state certified through the state, they're already familiar with the route. They know the route and they're comfortable with the route.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because I got the information from a reliable source that there was some incidents on more than one occasion where you had new drivers that didn't feel comfortable with handling some situations.
Okay, and I will look into it and I'll make sure that I, keep up with that because, I tell them all, if you're not, let us know because if you don't tell us, we don't know,
Because our kids are number one.
Yes, number one, yes ma'am. Anything else?
Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Can we also allow food service to give her a
Yes,
report?
yes, ma'am.
I was supposed to put her on the agenda, I forgot.
Okay, I think that the report report should be in board docs, so I'm just gonna kind of hit the high spots because I know it's there for you to read. It's not in there?
No, it's not.
Okay, well then I'll tell it. We submitted a claim for over $400,000 for September, which was up $160,000 from the month before. September was a longer month, but that's really great news. And compared to where we were last year, it's huge news. Mr. Wascom, I could tell, was itching to report this, but he didn't. We did get our FEMA reimbursement for $92,644. That finally went to our account last month.
That was that initial loss, right?
That was that initial loss from about this time last year, so we're very excited about that. The cafeteria equipment that you all approved has begun to arrive. The ladies are very excited about this. This is going to drastically improve the quality of the equipment that we have, and I hope it will drastically decrease the maintenance that is required in our kitchens. Bids are being collected at this time for a generator. This has been kind of an ongoing thing since our loss. I did get an initial grant from Weyerhaeuser. We are trying to get a matching grant to go with that so that we can install a generator to protect the food supply at the school food warehouse. I also applied for an additional 7 pieces of kitchen equipment through a state grant. That would be provided to us 100% their cost, which would be an additional about $100,000 worth of equipment to go into kitchens in Natchitoches Parish. So I'm very, very hopeful about that. I'll report back. It just closed out today, as a matter of fact, so they should be getting something back to us. But they said not many people were applying because everybody's so overwhelmed with the current supply situation. Supply chain does continue to be a challenge for us, but I think we are hanging in there. US Foods has worked with us very well, and so far we have been able to meet the need. Someone told me today, one of my vendors said, oh yeah, I saw a parish that was baking their own hamburger buns and hot dog buns in order to serve hot dogs and hamburgers, and we're not there yet. So I felt very blessed after I got that report. I thought, oh, thank goodness. But so I think compared to some other places, we are doing okay. And tomorrow is Gumbo Day. If any of you'd like to visit the school that is in your district and test it out, I highly encourage it.
Oh, yes, sir.
Does anybody have any questions?
I do. As you mentioned, there is a food shortage nationally. What are we doing to mitigate any challenges that may occur within the next, what do we have? 6 more months left of school?
6 more months left of school. We have to project what we will need with our vendor. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times things are allocated to us because they've known in advance. Also USDA, where we get all of our commodities, they're doing a survey right now. They're well aware. As it was explained to me, everything for this first sort of quarter of school was allocated sitting there. It comes from a hub in Baton Rouge to Alexandria and then to us. After that, we may encounter some issues, but they just contacted us today and said, you know, we're going to do a survey. USDA is aware, and they are going to be doing everything they can to ensure that our food supply stays intact. So a lot of it, though, I'll be honest, is just sort of being flexible, looking for substitutes. Bid law is suspended, so if there comes a day that US Foods can't provide something for us, then we are well within our rights to go to different vendors. And quite frankly, some of the ladies I visited with from the Northwest region are going to their local Walmart and buying things that they can't find. So we just have to be really creative, honestly.
Yes, because there's a shortage of long distant truck drivers.
Yes, yes. But like I said, so far we have been okay. And of course our warehouse is full. Fortunately, you know, we were able to receive all of our diverted commodities, so we have our own little stockpile. And I just, you know, we'll meet the challenge as it comes. But right now we're able and have avenues to keep things going. We haven't even really had to change our menu because of this, which is huge.
Awesome job.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Item 7A, permission to advertise for bids, I don't see any. And item 7B, appropriate action on bids, we have none that I'm aware of. Item C is a resolution to lease mineral rights as directed by Louisiana State Mineral and Energy Board.
Yes, last month I had approved the right to bid them out, but then that would mean me to bid them out. If we approve this, this allows the Louisiana State Mineral and Energy Board to bid them out on our behalf. This is with the resolution attached. And this is pretty common practice, and I would prefer them do it because they know what they're doing. And so this is the resolution that is attached is what they recommend that we adopt.
And you'll notice when you read, if you read it on board docs, it says 2 acres, that's for Caddo Parish School Board.
Does it?
Yes.
I will have that correct.
Well, well, Caddo Parish may have 2 acres involved in it, I'm not sure.
No, they don't.
They don't?
This is
Okay.
strictly in our
Okay.
parish.
Okay, well, I was questioning that.
They probably use the template and
Yeah,
would be
well,
more thorough.
that's right.
Did you,
Cause we got some property that,
Yeah, we
I think it's
got some property.
This is actually property was sold.
It's in the first paragraph.
Okay, yeah. Well, I read through it. So.
This is actually property we sold, we just have the mineral rights underneath it,
Right,
which is
I think
perfect.
that's, yeah, it says Caddo Parish School Board, which I didn't know if that was correct or just,
Nope.
not.
No, it needs to be.
did you ever get the, location, the actual physical?
Did I ever put it, it's, no, it's close to I-49 up in the northwest region, and close to DeSoto Parish, but no, I don't. That's the whole area that's being developed.
Probably
And
right
that's
in
in
there,
that area.
Ajax.
I think it is to the west of I-49, but no, I haven't actually put a pin on that. I'd actually have to ask like Town Page to tell me, because all they do is give you coordinates and I don't have,
You didn't get that Onyx, app on your phone.
You just
Once
punch
when
it
you
in there?
ride by it, it tells you who owns it.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
You need to send me that.
It's just a hunting app, so you don't wander on someone's property.
It's hunt stand, I can tell you which one it is. Item 7D, Technology Department, vehicle purchase.
How are all of you doing tonight? So, this is more of a discussion and informative type thing because we're dealing with state contracts and federal dollars, but Reverend Harris made the point a few months ago that he would like the board to be informed if there was going to be any vehicle purchases made. The Technology Department has applied through Title I building and federal programs to be funded, and because we're technology and we do all that stuff that the federal programs funds, there apparently is money that we can use to buy a vehicle. We currently have just a trailer that we pull with personal vehicles. Over the next 3 years, we have $4.3 million worth of technology budgeted. That's all going to be brought in and set up and taken out. And it makes a lot of loads when you don't have a big truck or a van and a trailer.
will the vehicle stay here, somebody will be taking it on?
It will be at the technology office. It will not be assigned to anyone individually. It will not be a commute vehicle. It is a vehicle that you can hook up to the trailer, or if you're going to a job that requires you to take the ladder and tools, and some of our guys drive Civics, for instance, or a little car. Now they have a truck and they don't have to take another tech off of a job who has a truck to say, hey, can you bring the tools to me so I can do my job out here? Now there's just one vehicle capable of pulling our trailer, and if you need it, you take the keys off the board and go use it to do your job.
This will be on a state contract.
It'll be a state contract, yes, sir.
On with I know we don't have to advertise the state contract, but we supposed to have a policy stating that how much you can purchase anything with that. What's our board policy on purchasing stuff like that? Even under state contract, so all boards have a policy that you can spend $10,000 or you can spend $50,000, or you give the superintendent authorization that he can purchase it or whatever.
Right.
But we're supposed to have a policy somewhere stating that the dollar amount.
Yeah, we have,
We were actually talking today, and I'll be honest with you, I pulled it up in preparation for this discussion, actually for that question. I'll be honest with you, I think we have a gap in our policy, because if you go to D, policy, section D, the procurement policy, it talks about state contract, and it talks about procurement policy, but I could not find anywhere unless, and I searched through all Part D, I could not find a dollar amount that is board policy. And so,
I'd like to follow what you're saying. Do we have a handbook, a policy handbook manual here? It's online, but do we have one here physically?
I do have
We
one.
do? I'd like to see it so I can follow what you're saying.
If we had a policy, we would have to override it because of the cost of vehicles anyway.
So we would have to vote to override
No,
it?
we wouldn't have to vote to override it, they would just have to come, say if we got it, if we had, back then, if we had, for a vehicle for $20,000, or any purchase over $20,000 that go through, state contract, we would have to approve it, they still could get it, but we would have to approve that they could get that vehicle. But then some boards have it that the superintendent can authorize it, but I don't like that.
I think our policy, we had to, if I remember right, I think you're right, we have to authorize it.
Yeah, but it was a certain dollar amount, and back then, it'd been, I slept a few times, but I thought it was around $30,000. But I don't know what it was, but the average vehicle you buy a truck is over $30,000, but I don't have no problem with.
Actually, on state contract, the ones that I'm looking at, we're talking about 25.
But we need to know what our limit is, because if we have a policy that is this much, we need to approve it, or we need to go say, okay, because all vehicles are high, let's go up to 50,000 on vehicles or equipment that y'all can purchase with, just letting us know and y'all can go ahead and purchase.
And that's what,
Because on the state contract, we used to be, we had to advertise for bids for all that, but if you're on the state contract, you don't have to advertise for the bid. But we need to find out our
so
policy.
if you go to section D, it's use of state contract. In our policy, it's a little ambiguous and I would say too generic based on what you're saying right now, because it says use of state contract. If equipment, materials, or supplies are available from the state of Louisiana contract, the superintendent and or his or her designee may approve the purchase without using one of the purchasing procedures outlined in statutory provisions if advantageous to the school board. The school board may also piggyback or purchase materials and supplies on valid contracts or other political subdivisions. But it doesn't seem that we have a minimum amount. So,
See, but what you just read is stating that we give, you have the authorization to approve it.
I can tell you, I would feel more comfortable with a minimum.
Because that's what they told me, is either we have a dollar amount, or the superintendent has the authority to go ahead and approve it.
And I think that's what got us into this in the first place, is because it says, I think it is under y'all's purview, but not under current policy. So,
and that's one of the things that
It
we've
really
been
just sounds
dealing
like
with.
we've got a policy issue that we need to address.
We have
in the
several
near future.
policy issues that we need to address.
Well, we actually need to have the board policy manual. We don't have it. I know it's online. I'd like to have a physical manual.
I think that, wait a minute, let me speak. I echo the same sentiments as Ms. McGaffin. I think I'm not the only one. Anybody else would like a manual, a policy manual? So there's only
New
two.
ones have it.
I found mine when I was doing reconstruction at the house.
So we need 1, 2, 3, we need 3 policy manuals for the.
yes, I understand, 3, Ms. Bell.
What three?
The problem.
Regine Bell, Dorothy
Yes,
McGaskey,
ma'am.
and Tankia Palmer.
So here's the,
Tankia has them.
I have those.
okay, so here's the
So
issue.
Dorothy McGaskey
Yes,
and I
ma'am.
would
I
like the
heard you the
policy.
first time. Here's the
But
issue.
you didn't provide what I
I did
asked
not.
you.
I
But you did not provide what I asked you
Okay, let's
last week. So we wouldn't be here.
okay, let's
We'd be
stop.
here because we have board meeting today.
Okay,
But
so
here's the
why
issue.
don't I have the policy? If I'm a policy maker, I need to have a policy manual. Let's get it right. I'm a policy maker that was requesting a policy manual.
The third time I tap this gavel, somebody's gonna be on period. Y'all take that out after this meeting, period.
The The issue is, we have the policy online. I understand that that may not be something that everyone is comfortable with. But every time we make a policy change, you will have to make a change. This will be defunct as of this week. That's why we say go to the website, because you can pick it up at any time. You can search it via keyword, you can search it via table of contents. This will be defunct this week after we have a policy that's not in here. And so I can give you this, in fact, this was here for you today, but it's not going to be up to date after this meeting, after Thursday's meeting.
Are you done? Because I'm waiting for you to finish so that I can ask questions.
Okay. Go ahead.
I am a teacher, an educator, and I think there are two other educators on this board. What we as educators are put against every day is called differentiated instruction. And what we have to do is provide other methods to teach our students in other ways that are not conventional. As you can see here today, I do not have a technological device in front of me because it's hard for me to follow. So you can imagine a student sitting in a classroom that has the same deficiency that I have. So when I requested a manual 2 weeks ago and you sent me the response stating that you could not provide it, and you're just now telling me that we have a manual today because I requested it in front of everybody, that doesn't sit well with me, nor the constituents of District 5. We have a broadband issue where students of constituents are not able to access the internet. So you sending me to the internet? First of all, my internet was down for 2 days. I did not have access to the internet. And secondly, I have a disability. I can't have screen time for more than 2 hours per day, which hurts the backs of my eyes. And I like to comment, I like to write on everything that I take, when it comes to a meeting, I like to take notes. So again, I'm not only requesting for myself, but other board members that would like a policy manual deserve to have a policy manual. Superintendent Dr. Eloy.
My understanding that policy, every time I've been to the meeting, it was sitting over there on that stand. That's where it was. The stand is gone. I just noticed the stand was gone. It might have been gone last month.
So then, go ahead.
With, if you wanted something with the policy, you could have asked one of the senior board members. We could have told you the policy manual was over there if you needed it.
Are you speaking to me?
Yeah.
I did ask a senior board member. I asked, I sent the email, I CC'd President Harris, I CC'd Superintendent Eloy, and Kamika.
Yeah.
I did. I went through the proper channels and the request was denied. And I'll put that, I will put, excuse me, I'm talking, let me finish, since you wanna hit the gavel. Since you I don't wanna stutter, let me talk. Because I'm not only speaking for myself, Pastor, I'm speaking on behalf of the District 5.
You're speaking on behalf of Ms. Latansky, you're talking for her.
Because we had a conversation.
Okay.
You're not gonna let me finish. Go ahead. You're not gonna let me talk.
No, I'm not gonna let you talk.
Well, you know what? I have the right to talk because I'm a policy maker as
I
well.
understand, but you've been on here,
Right?
and
Right?
we'll take it up later. We'll take
Later?
it up later.
It's a District 5 issue.
May I do
No,
an
let's
interruption?
go
Quickly so we
forward.
can move on.
Let's go forward, that's right. Let's go ahead with it.
Let all talk, no action. Let's go ahead.
Okay. Let's go.
So anyways, it should be a truck or a van on state contract. I'd like a van, but I'm not sure I can get one in the tow rating big enough that we can maximize our trailers, so it may end up being a pickup truck.
They have one big size of the van.
I was
And
looking at
I think it would be, unless, if you get a truck, you're gonna need to put a top over it, but,
That
if you
maybe
want a van, just, look at it, cause that way you can put.
I couldn't
Most
find
of the
one.
time, you've seen most of these technologies, TV, technology people, they have the vans where they can put the stuff in there, they don't have to worry, we'd have to take it out every time, in the back of a truck.
Main thing is, we saw, I saw like 5,500 foot-pounds, or not foot-pounds, pounds towing capacity on the ones. There was a, I think 3/4 ton van. I think it was the Ford was what they had on fleet. I could check it again, but I went and checked the specs and they didn't have a van on the state contract order sheet that had a tow rating high enough. That being said, we do have the cargo trailer, so if we do have to use a pickup truck, we still have, weather secured.
I know they always, some of the vans, you don't see them a whole lot, but I've seen with us working on them, that they actually have, vans that, have to do a wheel on the back.
Okay, I mean, if we can find.
But I don't know what
yeah.
it costs, but cause we just worked on one.
Well, and I'm also looking at a bare bones F-250 single cab we can get. It'll satisfy all the needs we need, and it's less than 25 grand on state contract. So I don't want to spend more than what we need.
You can get them with them bids too, put stuff in it or whatever.
Yeah, and that certainly might be something we look into, camper cover or, some sort of tool management system perhaps, but. Yeah.
Mr. Kozak, we went off tangent, so basically you're informing us of a new vehicle purchase?
Yes.
You're telling us that you're purchasing a new vehicle, or it's already been purchased?
No, we haven't even gotten the approval back from the feds. Reverend Harris and the rest of the board asked a couple months ago that if there was gonna be a new vehicle purchase, we'll let y'all know.
Okay, thank you.
But,
You're talking about for one for technology department?
yes,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
all right. That's all I have on that.
Mr. President, that concludes finance.
Thank you so much. No, we got no personnel. That's Mr. Kozak, yeah.
Yeah.
And Ms. Peavy.
All right. So, hopefully a lot of you, or all of you, have taken some notice to how things have progressed when it comes to technology and our digital imagery over the last year. We've been trying really, really hard to engage with parents and to get them more involved and increase the transparency of the district and this board. And one of the big ways we've done that is through our contracted position of a social media manager. What we originally did was we hired this on contract, just like I do with all my actual technicians, because they're not NPSB employees technically. We make sure we find a good fit. As workflows increase or decrease, I can adjust my staffing levels as needed. It's fiscally just makes more sense. We hired this position this way because we wanted to see how well it would work and evaluate the value of it after a year. I personally believe the value has been shown by the availability of information now that is available at fingertips to parents, faculty, everyone in their preferred method of getting it, whether that be on the website, through social media, through videos. There's just a lot of information that gets put out there that wasn't being put out there 2 years ago. That being said, I would like to eliminate that contract and create the digital content and public communications coordinator position. It would do the same role, website management, content creation, the community outreach, and everything that we're kind of already doing, but I feel like we need to make a stronger commitment to these efforts and say that this is a permanent thing that this board wants to invest in. Any questions?
Coordinator, you're talking about the digital content and public
Yes, ma'am.
communication coordinator?
Yes, ma'am.
We technology is growing and stuff, we have somebody to keep an eye on it.
We've had more information in the last year leaving the Hagerstown School Board and being transmitted to the media than I think we've had in the previous 10 years. And so it's been good.
This is actually one of the areas we're not behind the rest of the state. We're leaders in this work, and it feels really good to be thought leaders in something.
And have the question answered before it's asked.
What's that?
And how would they
And
be
have the
paid?
question answered before it's asked.
Yeah.
It says,
We got special funding to pay an individual or through Esther or through the board.
It wouldn't be Esther because Esther, would go away eventually, and we want this to be
So that's
permanent.
ongoing, permanent.
This, I'm not the accountant, so I will say that any sort of federal dollars that we can use to pay this position that we're currently using, if we are allowed to continue using those, that will be the first priority. I can't speak to the exact rules about whether only a contract position versus an actual employee, how the federal rules work with that. I'm gonna need to hash out the details with Lee and Julie.
Well, savings from the contract is part of it.
Yeah, oh, and
Yeah, that's where I was going.
there is,
Large.
Where-
And I think the comparison needs to be done, Lee, just, if I just make.
By Thursday.
Yeah, just, well, if you can ballpark what the,
ballpark is about $900 a month is what we're looking at in a difference.
the difference being the difference, okay, if you could put that in writing, in paper, so everybody could look at it, yeah.
Mr. Kozak, that would be something that I would support.
Well, thank you.
What kind of salary?
Okay, so,
You're gonna have to, yeah.
You gotta do some more investigation.
well, no, actually, we've already looked into the salary, and this is kind of comparative to what we are currently thinking. We want to use the same salary schedule that we use for the senior network technician position.
Okay.
And then the candidate that we end up hiring would fall on there as their experience and, dictates. But I believe that position, that salary schedule runs about 35 to 55.
Ms. Palmer?
Would this be a third person working with you in China?
No, no, no.
Oh.
And I have spoken with Ms. Parrish, and she realizes that this is an open position that requires an application and an interview and a hiring process. There's no guarantee. She feels confident that that she is qualified, the best person qualified for this job. And I would not have moved forward canceling the position she currently holds without her blessing. And, sometimes you just gotta bet on yourself, and I think that's what she wants to do.
I'm lost. So we're losing?
No, I'm just gonna be reapplying for this position. So I'm a contract right now and I'll be applying to be a district employee.
Okay, all right.
Sorry if I was confusing, I thought
I'm new.
No, I understand.
Well, one of the things, she doesn't have benefits now. She'll have benefits in the future.
Correct, she doesn't, get retirement or,
Right.
I feel like this position has proven itself valuable.
Very much.
It's gonna be here for the long term, and we need to invest in our people that are investing in us.
Right.
And I
And
thoroughly
bring 'em in.
understand what you're saying, but the current position that she has would be abolished and she'd move up, but we wouldn't be losing, we have a sufficient number of people to cover the areas we've been covering.
We're basically saying the positions are synonymous.
Yeah,
Okay.
And so we're abolishing one
yeah,
and then creating the other. And Ms. Parrish is the understanding, because ethics laws and all that, that she is more than welcome to apply and all that. But this is an open cattle call, I guess you would say, for applicants to this new position.
So it's a lateral move and it's just making it a permanent position for
Right.
us because we see the value.
correct.
Yes.
And it won't affect my other contract technicians or anything like that, the rest of the contract stays in place. So, there's stuff at the schools will still get fixed.
And I think everybody over here
Yes.
can agree that, Ms. Parrish has done a wonderful job. Very much.
And she made us all look good in our headshots. I did want to say one thing, and I don't know if everybody's aware of what all she does, but I had a school reach out to me and ask for a donation. And so I said, if you could just send me a flyer or something from the event, and she emailed me back immediately and said, China's working on this for me now. So I didn't realize that she builds graphic flyers for schools.
She absolutely, she builds the graphics at the district level. So, okay, if we gave her everything at the school level, it would be 2 full-time jobs. So she handles everything at the graphic design, the web, app management, everything for the district. And then at the school level, she supports and assists where she can, as time allows. If she's not doing anything, and a teacher says, hey, we're having this event, you mind helping me? She's always willing to jump on when she has time, but that's kind of.
Yeah. So when she sent it, I was
She's
like, does this
extra.
girl ever sleep? Because she's always in the school videoing
Yeah.
her.
And that's a big part of her job, is gathering that content. A lot of it is time consuming.
No, she's been faithful, and so I think, we want to show our faithfulness as well.
Any other questions? Well, that's the last you'll hear from me tonight.
Ms.
It's actually Ms. Ingram, they switched off this morning on that.
Alright, so, we are coming to you with the LEA Community Project Manager. We were awarded a, new grant, through the federal government. It's actually through SAMHSA. And so it's called the Louisiana Aware 2 Grant. And with that, they are requiring us to hire basically a community project manager for this grant. And so as part of the condition of the grant, that will take place for our district. I believe you have a copy of the abstract and the job description that was included in your documents. And so we, this person will have to, they're required to have a degree in mental health area because it is a mental health grant, social emotional learning grant that we will be working on providing those types of services to our students. So, you have
And this
questions?
would initially be at NPTCC.
Yeah, we are looking to actually house this person at NPTCC, be the grant manager, but also to provide services to that school as well. And then to that school as well, with the process of looking to maybe going to another school. There's enough money probably to hire another person to oversee it. It will include social emotional curriculum and also trauma-informed practices. There's a lot of things that the technical center is required to participate and do as part of an alternative program, and it will cover the monetary needs that we need for the NPTCC to meet all of those requirements.
It's 5 years.
It is a 5-year grant. It's about $326,000 a year.
And the grant pays for the person, right?
The grant pays for the person. Yeah, there's no money cost to the board.
So
correct.
they won't get benefits or bonuses or anything like that. It's just like a contract, right?
No, they will.
No, they will. They'll be an employee. We have to provide all of that.
The grant pays for all
The
of
grant
it.
pays for all of that.
Okay.
We have to write it in for all of that.
And the other piece of this that I know you didn't share because you don't like the attention is we were one of only 3 districts in the entire state that were awarded this.
Right.
So-
There's only 6 districts. There was an aware grant, one that was written about they're in their 3rd year, and we're the 2nd cohort to get it. It's only Tangipahoa and Avoyles and ourselves are the only 3 that have it at this time.
You're speaking in terms of one person with all these responsibilities, or would there be a team?
Well, actually, this person will just be in charge. They will be like the liaison between the state. It'll be more because they will basically work with Miss Pinckney and myself, but they'll be like the project manager for it, so they will help coordinate the efforts of the grant. It'll be a team approach because Miss Pinckney and myself are like the point of contact for the grant.
You said 326 for the grant?
Yes, ma'am.
326,000, okay.
And they have us a very short window to hire this person and get started with everything. You know, they were like, oh, you got it 2 weeks ago and now you have to make everything happen by next week. They're real kind about those types of things. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Okay, executive report, item 9A, school board ethics policy, Dr. Eagle.
So I was actually, and I think, does everyone have a copy of this sheet at their disposal? I think I put one all around. if you don't mind, Ms. Phelps, would you mind if I take all the policies together?
Yes, that's a
Okay.
great idea.
Because I believe there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 policies that we've received from forethought that we needed updating. And we looked through these, and these are, most of these are addendums to current policy to address issues. So the first one, school board ethics, we already have a school board ethics policy, but this one just amended it based on a recent legislation that allows for any member, any of your family members or my family members to be employed as a school bus operator, provided that they are qualified to be a school bus operator. Prior to that, there was a nepotism rule that made that an issue. The second one is under the curriculum policies. We've always mandated IGPs. What this curriculum policy is updating is making sure that the IGPs, individual graduation plans, are done in conjunction with parents and legal guardians, and that if any major change is made to that IGP, it is approved by the parent or legal guardian. Kindergarten, as we all know, this summer was the summer of kindergarten with Senator Cleo Fields pushing that with the House Education, or the Senate Education Committee, and kindergarten is now mandatory in the state of Louisiana, so we now have a kindergarten policy that addresses that, and it basically says that if you if your child turns 5 on or before September 30th, then you are eligible and need to go to kindergarten. Then we also have a compulsory attendance age policy, which had to be updated because we added kindergarten. So it changed those dates, or those ages. Then we have school admission policy. This is specifically to assist those families in the military. So it allows for remote registration / preliminary enrollment of students whose parents are in the military. And because, as we know, they're moving and all that, so they can call us, send the proper stuff, and we can get the ball rolling. The only caveat to that is that attendance cannot officially occur until proof of, the one final item, proof of residency is provided. Public school choice, this is a policy that was also updated by recent legislation by the legislature, and that allows any student who attended a D or F school to transfer to any A, B, or C school, whether in their district or outside of their district, and allow for the transmission of funds between districts if the receiving school has sufficient capacity, and as long as the student provides transportation when they make that move. So that's in there. And then finally, student privacy and education records. This is I think it's been an issue probably for the past 4 years, if you recollect. Basically, student data is sometimes shared or had been shared in years past, and this is a policy that helps protect student data, but what they did in this instance is they updated the groups that can receive student data, such as the Board of Regents and other entities like that that need student data in order to be able to actually help students progress through post-secondary education. So it just updated the groups that could get that data and who we could send stuff to, FAFSA, Board of Regents, etc. And the full policy that you would want to read is on Board Docs, and it has in blue the amended or additional pieces of legislation, or pieces of the policy that have been added.
Let me get a physical copy of this. That's on here.
Okay, so I know we've had some discussion about this. It was my understanding that we as a board adopted Board Docs, and I'm fine with the board's decision in this matter, but it does feel like we're one step in the pool, one step out of the pool, and I need guidance as to what y'all would prefer, because it was my understanding that we were fully embracing Board Docs, but it seems like that may not be the case.
But we don't have access at home to Board Docs. I don't have access at home to Board Docs, and Ms. Bell indicated, I think
there are
Mr.
challenges.
Matwaya had a problem.
There are challenges.
We don't have an opportunity
You need
to read
Wi-Fi.
fine too.
So,
And when I leave here, I don't have an opportunity to look at this. I mean, I can, I'm not,
yes, ma'am.
not at home here. And I've always, and I thought, well, I'm just saying, because I've always worked for the state of Louisiana, and anytime we had amendments, changes, policy, we got a physical copy. I know that we have we adopted board docs. But I don't see where it's such a big issue for us to get a physical copy of it to have in each individual hand when we have a many changes.
Well, let me say something too. I don't know if you all look at your emails, but all of this too comes to your emails. Not only does it come to your email, I think it's every quarter or whatever, or every time after a session, they will send you the changes. One of the reasons I brought Janet and them here is because we discovered that we weren't getting the changes in our policy handbook. And so with it being in our policy handbook, this right here is basically obsolete. It's not going to do us any good because they're changing it. You know, that's why I want to be able to, I'm not going to get upset, but I do want to be able to explain to Ms. Bell.
Well, wait, this is not the time.
I'm just saying,
Don't
listen,
go back. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, I
It's
want
time
to
to go.
explain, with us being in private, what the thoughts were, the reason whatever went down, so you could get an understanding.
I have an understanding, but I have a disability,
Okay.
and you have to accommodate me
Okay.
according to the ADA, American Disability Act. And that is not just applicable towards me on the higher end of administration, but then it trickles down to our students. It then trickles down to the community. So when we talk about equitable education, everybody in the community needs to have access, not just on the internet, but if somebody on the outside comes here and asks about any of our policies, we need to be able to give them that.
Right.
Due to the challenges, Pastor. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
And so,
And so when you sent that email today, that's why I had this.
I didn't email you today. I emailed you 2 weeks ago.
Yes, ma'am.
And you told me that.
The most recent one, no, I know,
Let
the
us
most
just
recent one.
cover that, 'cause I wanna explain it.
No, I emailed you that 2 days ago, not today.
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
okay, so
And
let's,
I will post, let me say this, Pastor, I'm sorry. I will post the email on reginebell305.com, just so that anybody that's watching could go ahead and see the emails that were exchanged. And it has to be seen, because I have constituents that are asking me, what am I doing while I'm sitting here? I've been sitting here for 3 months, and there are gaps. There are gaps in how we operate. And all I'm saying is to have a manual readily available to the community.
Well, I do want to say this, we had a really, really informative workshop here, what was that, about a month ago, where all the board members were present, and we talked for 4 hours about stuff like this, and you weren't there that day.
Right.
So you did miss a lot. So
I was caught up, and that issue was, the manual issue did not come about until Pastor Harris, Ms. Dorothy Ledasky, and I went to Lake Charles. That's why he brought them here. So I was already aware of what was going to be discussed.
No, it was before that. We had a retreat. It was a board retreat where we spent 4 or 5 hours together and really caught up on stuff.
Well, so what I'm saying now is that it's not a one-size-fits-all issue.
No,
Where
it's
that,
not.
so what precedes me is that board docs work. But as we can see throughout the meeting, there were certain documents that were not placed on board docs. That's number one. Number two, there were agenda items that,
I'm right here. You don't have to yell in my face.
I'm not yelling, this is my talking voice.
Okay.
I can
It's
go,
quite loud.
I can come down to a teaching voice if you'd like. All right, great. So what I was attempting to articulate is that when I put something in, a request in, and I try to go through the proper channels, it's not, my request is not being recognized.
Yeah, so
So the
that's
retreat,
definitely a conversation.
right, and the conversation has been had.
Yeah.
It has been had. Is this voice okay? Is this tone okay?
so,
So the conversation has been had. I've spoken to to Pastor Harris. I've emailed Dr. Eloy, and I did not get any results.
so let's
So
go
when
to,
constituents come to me, I have to be able to answer questions. That's all I'm saying.
Can we go to,
If we come to a committee meeting, and we ask for something to be on the agenda, and it's not on the agenda, we bring it up at the committee meeting, then it's added for Thursday. If you come to the committee meeting and it wasn't on the agenda then, all you had to say, I called Ms. Kanika, I called Dr. E. Lois, I wanted this on the agenda, the board members will okay it to go on the agenda. And even if it's a committee meeting, even if it's a voting meeting, and it's not on there, all you got to say, well, it wasn't on here, I would like to add it on there, and all we have to do is vote it to add it.
But, and it has to be a unanimous.
A unanimous vote to add it on there. So if you knew it wasn't on there 2 months ago, this is our second meeting, well, why didn't you bring it up when you first sent it in there? Why didn't you say then, I wanted this on the agenda, it wasn't on the agenda? Now we're arguing about something 3 months down the road because it wasn't on the agenda.
May I answer your question?
Go ahead.
Thank you for clarifying the processes in which I should undergo. To answer your question, yes, I did bring it up. I did bring it up to Pastor Harris.
When?
I can show you the text messages.
The text message?
Yes, I can show you the text messages.
I'm saying bring it to the whole board, not
well,
sending
let me
a
say
text
this.
message. You just say you're not savvy with technology or whatever.
I am technology savvy.
Okay,
however,
well, open your mouth and say that I didn't have it on there. You got to say what it is.
Thank you for your blessings. I have opened my mouth to the proper channels. The issue was addressed at the meetings. It was addressed at the meeting, but the item was not placed on the agenda.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You should have said, well, I had this item sent. I don't know what happened. Let's add it on the agenda. Because I could add anything I want tonight on the agenda. After Thursday when we come, if I want to add something that's not on the agenda, all I got to say to Pastor Reverend Harris, I would like this added on the agenda.
Well, I said it today. I said it today, that I wanted to add it on the agenda because the constituents asked me, what have I done? And I had to reiterate on what was said and the efforts that were being made by our director. I answered their questions. However, that item was not plainly put out in plain view. So I asked earlier today for it to be placed on the agenda for Thursday. And I got a head nod that it would be placed on the agenda. But again, I thank you for your blessings on me opening my mouth, in which I think I already did, but if I have to do so again, I sure will.
When was it actually put on the agenda tonight?
Can I ask something of you?
Yes, Mr.
In private,
Castro.
which is the way the ADA should be handled. In private, please make whatever accommodations moving forward is necessary with the superintendent and the president, so it can
That was
be
done.
accommodated.
That was done.
So
in private.
let's.
But I'll
let's
make
do
it.
that.
It's.
But we're here. We're beating this horse to death.
Yeah,
Let's
we
move
gotta-
on.
We gotta move on.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Okay, so are there any further questions about the policies that we're amending? Okay, if not, then we'll move along to the Fatherhood Initiative Mentoring Program. Stephen Harris.
Okay. I met with dads on duty. Got a lot of calls from in Caddo. Got a lot of calls from other stakeholders in our community about this initiative. Also talked with Ms. Bernard, Ms. Bernard as well as Colonel. They are excited about doing this or having that school to be a pilot program for a fatherhood initiative, much like a mentoring program to help with the young people with father identity and things like that. And so we're working along with our superintendent. We talked about it, sat down a long while and spoke about it, as well as with Ms. Bernard and other stakeholders in our community, fathers and things. And I think this program will go over well if it's implemented right. And that's where we're at on this.
I think one caveat is we'll just have to run them through, like any volunteers, through the HR department, and then we would just, some brief documentation of what is our exact goal with it. But I think in general, just the idea of it is is awesome in and of
Like
itself.
background check, is that?
Absolutely, absolutely, because that's what had to happen, I think with, even, dads on duty.
I was just getting ready to echo that, yeah, Dad's on Duty,
Well,
which is
they
something
are.
that's gone viral in Shreveport. I think this would be a great program to implement in our system.
And, the great thing about it is one of the young men who's a part, it's 4 young men who, co-founded this program, but one of the young men, they're from, our parish. His name is, David Telsey, the third. And right now, the reason they couldn't be here, they're in New York. And they are going over what they did, which they did a great thing. And I'm not sure we're trying to break up fights or anything, but I think it's more of a fatherhood initiative, mentoring-like program that
Just
will
a
be reaching
presence.
out. Yeah, just a presence, things like that. And they have another program there at the junior high, which is really good program, and that is Boys to Men Club, which is a great program. But we just want to be able to undergird that, and many of our young men and women deal with identity problems because the father gives a person their DNA of who they are. And I think if we can do that positively, we can see some positive things come out of it. So that's what we're doing.
And you said for, mainly fatherhood initiative, we do have to look at something to address issues with the young ladies too.
Well, but this is not just young men, this is young ladies too.
Okay,
That's really, it's a fatherhood initiative.
okay,
Uh,
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
Young
because
ladies
surely
on
we
too.
got young ladies who need that father figure in their
Yes.
life too.
And I think, you know, if you do the pilot, eventually, if the fatherhood initiative, then motherhood couldn't be ignored either. So I think, you know, pilot, and then we learn from it, we evolve, and we see what can we do next.
Right.
Wonderful.
Item I, creative and performing arts.
Okay, I'm gonna mention about that, then I'm gonna throw it over to the superintendent. Myself and many of our principals, many of you that's here, came up off of the performing and creative and performing arts, whether it be theater. Northwestern boasts one of the best theater departments in all the country. Got one of the best music programs, and go down every year. Miss Whitney was one of our instructors. Some people thought my brother and I learned how to sing from some black brothers or something, but Miss Whitney, which was a white young lady, taught us voice and diction and taught us how to sing, you know. And so we think, and along with those some on the board, that the creative and performing arts doesn't just do things for my talent, but it helps me, and statistics shows, it helps me academically as well. And so I spoke with Dr. Eloy about it, spoke with Lee about it, and they've already begun to put some things in place. And so I'm going to throw it to him and let you all hear.
So I think there are two ends of the spectrum. First end of the spectrum is what we're currently doing, which is we've added music, elementary music to Weaver and East, and we are discussing with Ms. Bernard the expansion of music at her school next year. You know, when she came on and everything she had to do just to start up there and everything, it was a little rushed. So we discussed. My end goal in all of this is to have a orchestra at NJH. I think, you know, I was at the Pumpkin Glow the other day, and the one thing that's kind of obviously missing, you have Magnet there, you have Middle Lab, it's like, okay, well, where's NJH and all this? And so that's one thing we'd like to do. Now, I have talked at the, after Pastor Harris brought this to me, I have talked to folks at Rapides Parish, because Bolton High School had no infrastructure in place, they had a band, I think that was about it. They started a Conservatory of the Arts. Now, that Conservatory of the Arts is, as I referred to with Pastor Harris, it's like the Cadillac version of implementation of music and performing arts. I think they implemented in year one alone $500,000. That's, probably not something that we can do right this second, but what we're talking about is where can we add positions when able to, specifically positions at schools that are currently underserved by the arts. And so again, LP Vaughn has elementary music. Previously, Weaver and East did not, so we added that. We do believe the next step is to add something at NJH. Now, we've been discussing with Ms. Bernard whether that's orchestral, because they do have band, but whether it's orchestral or voice. The end goal, I think, is to have something that is holistic, that culminates in the high school level. When I mean holistic, it means you have a dance program, an orchestra program, a band program, a vocal program, and a theater arts program. When you put on a play or some sort of program, your dance line is your dancers, your choir folks are your lead folks in that. Your visual arts are creating the sets. Your orchestra and your band are in the pit. All those things put together one thing, and this can be done with the classes that are currently in the system, and it offers a whole lot more to kids. The major stumbling block I see for us as a district is we currently don't have a physical plant where that could easily occur. Doesn't mean, you look at Natchez Central, they do have a stage-ish. Lakeview has kind of an auditorium-ish.
Overdonna has one of the best.
There's places, and then also, I know NSU is in the thick of getting a new president, so it's not the time to discuss with them, but the possibility of maybe being able to partner with them and utilize some of their facilities, all those type things, but this is very early stages. I can guarantee you that our big push for this next year is to expand like we did this year in the city schools. I can also tell you one thing we've done, and Lee, correct me on this number. The investment we made this year in
$120,000.
$120,000?
And we made a $120,000 investment with our bond money and various other BRE funds, district-wide. It was well received, and our numbers doubled or
That's actually
tripled.
The only problem is, so we spent all that money, got all these extra instruments, did all this, and now it worked.
So
because the band folks are coming to us and saying,
we're paying to repair. We're paying now to repair the old equipment, just to keep it moving.
But I do think, even going back to my first interview, I think that came up where it's one thing that you look at NSU, we're the biggest feeder parish-wise in terms of feeding NSU. Natchez Parish sends more freshmen, but we are not necessarily sending them as many in kind of their bread and butter, which is theater and the arts and all those things. So it would be great if we could expand our programs. And we have some folks who've come to us, whether it be Ms. Hudlow, Ms. Olson, and some others, Mr. LaCour, who are advocates for these programs. And
a lot of officers, we have a lot in the office.
And so it's very much on the radar, but we know we can't bite off that big Cadillac version right now, but we feel as though we can take bites every year and expand it at a good rate, specifically at our underserved locations, and then eventually get to that place where it may just be a smaller investment of the fixed assets to make it a bigger program. So that's kind of where we're at. I think over the next 6 months as we enter into the 22-23 school year, we could continue to update y'all as to what our plans are in terms of, really I think the next step is a few positions. And then possibly some more investment again in equipment if need be.
What are we looking at having the arts, music in all of the schools?
So currently, right now, every school has some arts or music.
Some.
The idea is that we would want to expand that. If you have just one, we'd like to make it too, because, you know, I mean, some kids, they may be very artistic, but they're not a band kid, but they are a vocal kid, and so we want to give them options. We also want to be able to feed the high school to where, you know, it's a development process. So right now, I would tell you that we have a really good feeder program in terms of orchestra. Everything else needs to, band at the lower elementary and junior high level needs to expand, and some of them are non-existent. Unless you're in the talented program, there's no vocal anywhere except for the talented.
And what I discovered, one of the reasons I'm adamant about this is my son leaves here and goes to Howard University and finds himself in acting. Never acted, you know, but I just think about where would he have been if he had done it down here, you know, which we got one of the best theater departments
And
in NSU.
the kids should have access.
You know, when children are thinking about continuing their education, there are so many scholarships that are tied to, you know, these arts. It's just a great investment all around.
Every Thanksgiving for the past 3 years, yeah, I've seen a student from Pineville High School perform the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, specifically working in a Broadway play. And in fact, one of my former students I saw on Saturday Night Live a few weeks ago, he was definitely a background character, but we had from Pineville, and we weren't the best in the state or best in the nation, but that we had numerous kids who pursued that for their livelihood, and it's something that I do think as a whole in our parish we could definitely invest further in.
Real quick before we go, I know we're packing up, but the Virtual Academy has a PBIS program for their children, and they're in need of prizes for the kids. So if y'all would like to bring something Thursday night, that could be candy, it could be $5 gift cards to restaurants, but they do have the PBIS to reward the children. They just don't have things to give them at this point. Virtual Academy. Yeah. And so I know all of us take care of the schools in our district and we give throughout the year, but I haven't thought about the Virtual Academy.
Well, and every district has kids in that school.
Yeah, so yeah, that's all of our schools. So if you'll think about bringing that Thursday night, it can be anything. It can be swag from your job with a logo on it, candy, gift cards, pens, pencils, erasers.
Would you mind sending out a text Wednesday nights?
May I ask a quick question? Mr. Watson mentioned about the sale of timber earlier. Don't we get an account, a report in finance about what timbers are sold for, where at, the total amount that is sold for, and what fund does that go into?
General fund. It's a general fund, it's a general fund.
We're doing a thing right now.
Timber or whatever.
Yeah.
We get a report in finance, right?
Yeah, it's gonna, when we sell it, is that the question?
Yeah, once we sell.
It's always gonna be a prevailing market rate, so there's no way to really understand. But when we do sell it, we can certainly report how much that was.
Yes.
So yes, I'll be sure.
And you'll see it come up for bid.
Actually, we'll have to award it. It's
Yeah,
actually,
you have to award it, so it'll be a bid.
it'll actually be awarded.
All right, any other thing? All right, Dr. Ewan and Ms. Bell, if she has gone, if y'all would, I want to meet with you.
Sounds good.